Welcome to episode 11 of the Gaming Lounge podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian, and I'm joined by Dory. How you going? How you doing, Dory?
Hello. I am. Wow, it has been a wild week between getting retweeted by Tony Khan, owner of AEW, and a bunch of other personal stuff. It has been an absolutely crazy week for me. But I did get a chance to play a game last week, and I am looking forward to more games to come, like Stellar Blade. So that'll be good.
Yes. So today we're back to normal. We're gonna have regular topics today. First of all, we're gonna talk about Open Roads, which is what Dory's playing, and I was playing Children of the Sun, which also came out this week. Which came out this week, and we're talking about Gear 6 being revealed, and we're gonna talk about Star Wars Outlaw, the trailer, and all the controversies and the huge discussions this week about the game. And we're going to talk about the new Fallout show, which is a huge hit for Amazon. It's getting universal acclaim. People are saying it's the greatest adaptation of all time, or one of them, and it's been popping off. Fallout, the franchise, is selling crazy right now on Steam and other platforms because everybody wants to play Fallout right now. So the franchise got a huge boost from the show. So we'll talk about that. We're gonna talk about $70 games. Is that sustainable? It's gonna be one of our discussion topics. And finally, we're gonna talk about the Triple I Initiative Showcase, which a bunch of indie games were revealed. That'll be our final topic of the night. So let's start with Dory's spotlight of Open Roads. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah. So Spotlight. By the way, there's like a spotlight on me. That's just natural light. So I look like incredibly bright right now, but not much I can do. I need to get curtains. I'm actually in my new apartment, which adds to all the craziness of the last couple of weeks. But anyway, so Open Roads, really cool indie game. Just came out recently. Has a really fun kind of graphical style to it, very watercolor. If you look at screenshots of it, it's kind of jarring at first, seeing the character sprites balance out against the background. It's kind of like off-putting at first, but I think you get used to it over time. The sprites themselves look nice. It's kind of like in Kingdom Hearts 2, where you have Donald, Goofy, and Sora, and they're standing right next to Pirates of the Caribbean, realistic characters. It's just very weird. Maybe not as bad as that, though, but it's still very weird. But yeah, the graphical style is very interesting, very watercolorish. You do have choices about what you're going to do. Basically, what is going on is that you are a teenage girl in the early 2000s. There we go. There's the light finally balanced out. The offshoot of Blockbuster is in this game. I forget what they call it. But if you grew up in the 2000s, especially as a teenager, actually, it's crazy. The main character, if she was alive right now, would be about as old as my partner, Kim. So that was like really wild to think about. But she is, I don't remember her name, but she is, she and her mother are basically closing the house of their, her grandmother, her mom's mom. And they find, this is the whole premise of the thing, so I'm not like giving anything away, but they find like a hidden diary and kind of map and secret postcards between people, between the grandmother and another man. So possibly she had some kind of tryst with somebody else or a secret relationship or whatever. So they basically go on this road, crossroad thing to figure out what's going on, because the grandmother has died and they can't ask her. It's a really interesting game. I want to shout out the voice acting, especially. One of the voices is done by Caitlin Dever, who is from the movie Booksmart. I love Booksmart. I remember Kim and I went to go see that movie on a whim when we were in Jersey back in 2019 on our way to or from Colorado. I can't remember which. I think it was on our way from. But we had nothing to do, and we were going to go to sleep in a Barnes & Noble parking lot, and this is way too much information. But the point is that Caitlin Dever is a very talented voice actress in general, and so she is incredible in this. The mom is really good too. There's no gameplay. I know, big shocker. Dory decided to play a narrative game with very little gameplay. Everybody stop and be in shock. But there's barely any gameplay. You move around. It's the essence of a walking simulator, if you want to call it that. You interact with objects. Sometimes when you pick up an object, you can press like a button and it will say, "Hey, mom," and that will get your mom to come over, and you'll have a little discussion about what that object means to each of you, and like why it's important and stuff like that. It's really cool. And again, the voice acting is really strong. The writing, the voice acting, as it should be, is the cornerstone of this game. It's very good. Everything else though is not quite as good. I mean, the graphics are fine. I think they're nice to look at. Like you get some autumn leaves and trees and stuff like that, and some background. It looks nice. It's passable. I will say one of the big problems with the game is that there's a twist at the end, and it's not. I don't think it's bad. I know in the IGN review they said the twist was kind of a letdown. I thought it made sense and it was fine. I guess if you want to call that the definition of a letdown, I wouldn't argue with you. But I personally was like okay with it. The ultimate reveal of like who the grandmother's been talking to and stuff like that, and how it connects to the plot. Some people might be let down by it, but the good news is this game's 2 hours and it's on Game Pass, so you really can't go wrong. It's not like you spend a lot of time in it. I feel like the game really gives you as much time as it should give you. It's basically a movie. I mean, it even has the runtime of a movie. It took me like 2-ish hours to beat it. And I wasn't speeding through by any means. I could have taken my time a little more maybe, but yeah, it's basically a 2-hour game. It's mostly about the strained relationship between the main character, who is a teenager, and her mom. And it's so funny too, because she has like one of those flip phones that was very popular in the early mid 2000s. And so you can do a little bit of texting, and there all the classic lingo of like LOL and I don't know, like whatever we all used to say back then. Just abbreviations all over the place that are awkward and don't, nobody would do that now because you can just type it normally. But you had like the numbers and they had to type out the letters, and yeah, it was wild. Yeah, this is a solid game overall. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because honestly, there's not a ton to talk about, but the story is compelling and interesting, even if the conclusion isn't a huge hit. The voice acting's well done. The watercolor stuff is a bit garish, or not garish, but like off-putting at times. I thought it looked lovely at first, but when you actually play the game, it just looks a little weird compared to everything around it. I know they were going for the striking aesthetic, and it works, but it's off-putting. But I've said that like 3 times. So yeah, I'd say it's a solid game, like a 4 out of 5. You can't go wrong. It's 2 hours of your time on Game Pass, so that's like what, $10 if you only play that game in a month that you have Game Pass. So yeah, it's a great game. I'd recommend it. I wouldn't like heavily recommend it. It didn't bring me to my knees, or I didn't start crying or bawling my eyes out. It's not winning any Oscars, but I do like it a lot, and I think it's a great game, worth your time. And like I said, there's not a lot of replay value. You can do different choices, but from what I've gathered from reviews, they're not monumentally different, and the story's always going to end the way it does. You just get slightly different like dialogue choices or dialogue responses. But yeah, that's Open Roads. Great game, short game, perfect for kind of an in-between time where not a lot of huge games are coming out, at least immediately. I know a couple of weeks ago, we got Rise of the Ronin and Peach and all that stuff. But at least right now, there's not a ton of big games coming out. So we're all waiting on Stellar Blade and whatever else comes out in April.
So my spotlight is going to be on Children of the Sun, which is from Devolver Digital. It's a new game. Came out, I believe, Wednesday of this week or Tuesday.
Very, very recently, yeah.
I played it when I was on my day off. It's a really unique game. First of all, it's a puzzle game where you play as a sniper, and you're fighting this cult. Now, the cult itself is pretty tropey. It's a pretty usual video game story where you want revenge, and it's a cult. You're fighting a cult like The Last of Us or something. So the story itself is not really great, but it's not really the point of the game. The point of the game is the gameplay. So it's kind of the opposite of the game Dory just talked about.
Yeah.
Where gameplay is everything. And what you do is you're a sniper. You run left and right, only left and right. You don't go straight. And you control the character with the mouse. You go left or right, and you angle yourself a certain way where when you shoot the bullet, you that you have the right angle so you can hit the target in a good spot and then make the bullet move and hit another person. So the mechanic of the game is you shoot a bullet and you control the bullet. So if you hit a target, it allows you to aim again to control the bullet to hit the other target. So you have to figure out the best way to hit every target without hitting any object. If you hit an object, you fail. So it's really cool mechanic. I've never played anything like this before. I guess the game that feels like the closest to this is maybe Super Hot, but Super Hot doesn't play like this. But
Super Hot's the closest I can think of too.
Yeah, and it reminds me of the movie Wanted. You control the bullets, you can bend it. There's another mechanic where like you shoot up and then you can like turn it around. It adds different mechanics to it, but overall it's the same thing of like it's just a level. Figure out how you figure out the layout by going left to right. You figure out what part you're gonna shoot at, and then you can tag each enemy that you want to shoot, and then you shoot the bullet, and then if you hit like a character, it will it will allow you to aim, or if you hit like a gas canister or a car or something like that, you can aim from there as that point as well. So there's like a path you can follow. So everybody's gonna have a different way of tackling the level. You get rewarded if you don't for time, and if you don't hit any objects. So if you fail a lot, your score is not gonna be as good as other people. So there is a scoreboard and a leaderboard for people. I was getting like I don't know 500, 700 on the scoreboard. I don't know how people are getting like top 5 on this, but I haven't really done a lot of research on it anyway, so I couldn't tell you, but it's really unique. It has a really unique aesthetic. The visuals are really, it has like that dark internet vibe to it, like you're playing some game that's from the dark web. And even the sound design's like that. It's like the sound design is very unique. It's really good, but it feels like your speakers are messing up, but it adds the whole like this is a game you should not be playing. It has like that. It's like a dirty vibe to it. That's the best way I could describe it. It's like I'm not saying it's like a school shooter simulator, but it feels like something you should. It feels like a taboo game, in the way they do the aesthetic. But it's not realistic. It's obviously everybody character is like indie animated. They have like the character models are just like a bunch of polygon kind of enemies. So there is gore and stuff. Like if you shoot them in the head, there's blood and everything. But it's not like The Last of Us Part 2 where it's like super hyper realistic. It's just like a typical indie shooter. It's kind of like Super Hot. So it's a unique game, and I really recommend it. I think it's like $15. I think it's PC only, which makes sense because you have to use the mouse. You can't control it with your keyboard at all. It's all mouse focused, basically. Yeah, it's a good game. I think it's underrated. It seems like people are not really hearing about it because I was looking at the comments and people were like, "What game is this?" And so it's kind of going under the radar. But I would definitely check it out. It's a really unique game if you really like the movie Wanted, because you're basically an assassin and you're killing a cult, getting revenge. So yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah, it seems cool. I wasn't sure if I wanted to play it. I was like back and forth. It's on my wish list right now. And I just wasn't sure how difficult the puzzles were. It sounds like it doesn't really get harder until later. And they kind of gradually build up.
It's pretty challenging. It is pretty challenging at times, but the cool thing is when you do find an enemy and you kill that one person, if you fail it, you come back and the person's automatically tagged for you.
Oh,
so you can figure it out. But obviously, you're going to suffer in your score if that's the case because you want to do it as fast as possible. But you can always reset it, restart, and get a score if you care about the score that much. I don't really care about the score. I'm just trying to play the game. But yeah, puzzles are just not my kind of game. So if the puzzle is unique like this game is, then I'll be into it. So I recommend it. Just don't expect like a big giant huge game. This is very much so an indie gameplay focused game. It's very independent. Doesn't feel expensive. The character models are not great. But the aesthetic itself is charming in a dark, twisted, taboo way where it feels like you shouldn't be playing this. It has that like dark web vibe, like I said. So
it's got. I feel like it's got Postal vibes. Like it's got if Postal was into like really goth sun drenched noir or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
something like that. I don't know.
It has like a strong neon vibe too. Like
Neon, yeah,
like
that's the word
it's
I'm
like
looking for.
purple and yellowish color, like very bright, but also dark at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. It's
Yeah.
like a noir, but like neon. I don't know, like the Wolf Among Us did that with that
Right.
that kind
Yeah.
of purple.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. I guess that's noir, like a modern
Yes.
noir, maybe.
Yes. It's like neo noir.
Yeah,
That's what they
neo
call
noir.
it.
Yeah, that's what it's like. All right, so that is Children of the Sun. That's pretty much all I can say about it. It's like I said, that's pretty much the whole premise of the game. All right, so let's talk about some news now. So first of all, this one's not so much news, I guess, but apparently, but it's like a leak. And
Yeah.
first one
From The
is
Verge.
from The Verge is Gear 6 is potentially getting revealed at the Summer Game Showcase, or whatever, however it's at, and at the Xbox show, which is not a surprise because I like it's been 5 years since Gears 5, so you imagine they had been working on it for 5 years.
I
at
mean,
this point.
it's been so long. I've had the opportunity to play Gears 4 and Gears 5 back to back. So that's how long it's been. I've been able to catch up on the Gears franchise.
That's crazy, and
I know.
all the games are not even on
I mean,
PC.
I haven't gone back and played 1, and I've never played 2 or 3, but I at least like know what's going on in the newest timeline, 4 and 5. So
then you didn't even play the best ones.
yeah,
In my opinion, 3 is the best one, story campaign wise. But so Gear 6 is coming out. Is going to be revealed apparently on the June 9th showcase from Xbox, which is like usually it's always on a Sunday, so that's going to be exciting. And it hasn't been formally confirmed by Microsoft yet, but it seems like it's all but certain at this point. Now we don't know what kind of Gears game is going to be. We're just assuming it's going to be like a typical Gears game, like a third-person shooter. But they could easily do a Gears Tactics too as well. We just don't know what kind of Gears game it's going to be. But I imagine it's probably going to be the next game in the series.
right.
But I wasn't happy with the ending of Gears 5 because I hated that whole choice system. I thought it was really stupid.
I wasn't either. Yeah,
and now
I was
they have
just
to,
about to talk about this.
And now they have to like decide if they want to make one ending canon or if they're gonna go by your ending. And you have like in the beginning of the game, you're gonna have to choose like what did you pick? And it just changes
but
the game.
Seb, what if they make a Gears multiverse? Doesn't everybody want that?
Oh, it's so bad.
Everybody has to do a fucking multiverse. Yeah, I'm with Seb. I liked Gears 4 quite a bit actually. I thought it was a great game. I haven't played Gears in a long ass time, so Gears 4 was a bit of a risk for me. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it had really solid combat. A couple sections frustrated me, and it's not like I was in love with the story or the characters, but I thought it was a great game overall. Gears 5 is not quite as good. I didn't like the open areas. They felt tacked on. It felt like needless padding, and I did not like that choice system towards the end. I couldn't even believe it when it was happening. I think I started laughing. I was like, what? Like, this is coming out of complete nowhere. Like, nowhere has Gears ever had a choice system. Why is this here? Like, I don't know. It really feels like at its core, Gears should be a run and cover shooter with some kind of like plot. It doesn't have to be amazing, whatever, as long as it's there. The gameplay should be the most important part. But yeah, Gears 5 lost its way for me.
Yeah, I liked Gear 5. That was a good game. I just had issues with it. I thought they overcompensated by the fact that like, oh, we're doing the same thing over again, so let's like add a big open section where you drive around. And I feel like that I think it just padded out the game way too much. It didn't add anything to the game. I thought it ruined it. It didn't ruin it, but it made it worse.
Yes.
It didn't add anything at all like what they were intending. I have no issue with Gears following the same formula over and over again, as long as it's spread out. So I think it's only an issue when games follow a formula. It was when it's annual, like Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty or something like that.
Right.
But when it's like spread out 4 to 5 years, it doesn't really bother me because it's been 4 to 5 years, right? Like it's not like I'm playing a Gears kind of game every day. I'm not doing it every year.
Yeah, nobody even really does cover shooters anymore. Like I couldn't even tell you the last game that came out. Like at this point, even though it's retro, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not like a lot of people are doing it, and Gears is the one that did it really the best. So yeah, I don't have any problem with the Coalition just doing it over and over again.
Yeah, I have no issue with Gears of War being a linear third-person shooter cover shooter. Like I have no issue with them just doing the same formula. Like it's been 5 years, and like you said, there's no other game that's really doing it anymore. So people were
They've all
complaining
died
about
out.
that, but like I really don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
Don't give me open world. Or
I
anything.
think it's fine if Gears is just a solid cover shooter that has some weird alien lore and just decent characters, good voiceover, like impressive graphics. I think that's all you really need. It's just a 4 out of 5 game for me personally. It's just a 4 out of 5 game that's solid, and I'm fine with that. I hate how modern game. I'm gonna get on my fucking perch here. I'm gonna sound like an old person, but I hate how like linear games have become like a bad word for some developers. Like you guys don't have to make everything an open world game. Like you don't even have to make things an open space game. Like all those side quests felt pointless. I think I did 1 or 2 of them, and then immediately I was like, nah, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? I don't like. No game had ever made me feel more like the fate of the world is in your hand, but oh look, a shiny side quest. Like I've never felt more like, no, this doesn't fucking matter. I gotta save the world from whatever the fuck they're called. The Covenant? I don't remember what the hell they're called. The Horde? The Locusts? What the hell are they called?
Basically, the Locust.
They're basically
the different ones. I forgot the
Seb
name.
was just fucking leaving me there, just dying on open air. Just like this game.
I'm a teacher. I want you. I'm guiding you. Find your answer on your own.
Fair enough. I can appreciate that. But anyway, so yeah, I hope they return to the roots, I guess, of the series and ditch the open areas, or at least don't have so many of them. I think what 4 did was really great.
Just do what 4 did.
They should just go back to that.
Yeah, I think they should do Gears 1 through 4 again. Just get rid of the open section. I don't think people really like that section, so we'll see.
No, it was pretty mixed, even by longtime fans, I think. So
yeah. And this is the third game in the new sequel trilogy, so I'd imagine this is the end of Kate's story, and
right.
I don't know where you go from here. Like I don't know how it's gonna end.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, we can't do another alien invasion. Like let these people live in peace. So
yeah,
I don't know where you go from here in the series. I guess you can only go backwards at this point.
You can or
a different planet.
You're either gonna have to go not horrendously, but hilariously forward, I should say, like thousands of years in the future, or some kind of prequel series, because I mean, obviously you can always fake the Queen's death or whatever they're gonna do, but I
mean, they already did that.
But basically. I don't know. They already did that. Oh wow, I was just making up a plot line on the top.
Well, she dies in the third one, but then Kate's related to her, and she's somehow still alive. If I remember, I'm going off the top of my head. This is like 5 years ago, but
yeah. No, I mean, it's
she's
fair.
still alive.
The lore is fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty straightforward, but it's just like it feels like sequel. The best way to describe the Gears trilogy, the new one, is like it's like the Star Wars sequel trilogy, which not my favorite thing in the world, and it's more like they just bring old characters back in, right, for like cameos. Oh look, it's Marcus Phoenix. Oh, it's Cole. It's JD. I mean, not JD. It's like the whole gang's back, and it's like and they're just creating like somehow the Locust came back. You know what I mean? It's like so somehow Palpatine returned. It's like this case, like somehow the Queen has returned. You know, that kind of thing. So that's my point. It's like, where does Gears go from here after you do the same storyline basically again? I mean, they did add the whole like mechanic, the whole like where Kate has like powers or something, and so that wasn't in the original trilogy or anything like that, but that's because she has a connection to the Queen. I think it's her grandma. I think if I'm going off time, I believe it's her grandmother. Yeah,
I think it's her grandmother as well.
Yeah, so I guess you can go on different planets. Maybe the next Gears game they start traveling.
I think it goes all Tim Curry. It goes to the only place capitalism has not touched, outer space.
We're gonna pull Horizon. So
yeah. So I don't know. I know we've been ripping on the Gears stuff, but I want to be clear. Like Gears has a lot of great ideas, and I loved it as a kid, and I love Gears 4 now. But I think they've got to realign their identity and bring it back to basics to make Gears 6 a worthy successor to Gears 4.
Right. All right. So I'm looking forward to that. Gears is my favorite Xbox franchise.
Oh wow! I did not know that.
Yes, it is. Yep. And so speaking of space, we're gonna talk about Star Wars.
And Star Wars. We were just talking about Star Wars earlier.
Yes, and we're gonna talk about Star Wars Outlaw, the trailer reveal that we got. So we got a date officially on August 30th, and
Nice. Man,
gaming
if only someone's birthday was around then. Damn. They could
and
maybe get that game from somebody. Not necessarily you, just anybody.
right and it's exciting. I mean, as much as I love Star Wars, it did have a lot of controversy and big conversations about everything but the game itself.
I missed this, so you got to fill me in because I'm gonna be the unwitting unwitting Padawan here. So I didn't hear about any controversy, but maybe I missed it on Twitter
Well, it's the
or
typical.
Discord.
Well, the first one I'm not really gonna get into because
Sure.
it's typical Twitter stuff where it's like, oh, like they made the main character ugly, and the voice actor herself
What?
is very attractive, and they keep making female characters uglier for some reason. Like that's a conversation that keeps
What?
happening. No, because
Okay. Okay.
there is a narrative that people. I'm not gonna get into the whole thing, but it's basically people
Sure.
think
Of course.
the voice act that Western game devs like women are creating uglier or not as attractive female characters. They're afraid to go that route anymore. They don't want to make like Stellar Blade's like the exception because they're Asian Eastern devs, right? But in this case, I know that's what there's people. It's what people are going to hold
Yeah.
debate
No,
about.
I know. Okay. So one of those controversies is stupid. Okay, Roger.
Yeah. And the second one is about the pricing because the pricing they had like all those layers.
That I have more to say about. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a gold edition that is.
Did we not know about the pricing before? Did we
No.
not know what it was gonna? We didn't.
We didn't get
Okay,
any of
all
that.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the first one was a big conversation. I was still hearing that, but the second one was even bigger because that one was really pissed people off, and the gold edition is $110, and the more expensive
Jesus.
version is $130. And the gold edition includes the base game, the season pass, and 3 days early access because that's the big trend right now is paying extra money to get the game earlier. The Ultimate Edition includes all that and 2 cosmetic bundles, the Sawback Shark bundle and the Rogue Infiltrator bundle, and the digital art book, which I have no interest in digital art books.
No.
The Season Pass adds 2 post-launch story expansions, the exclusive Jabba's Gambit mission at launch, and the Kessel Runner character cosmetic pack. So nothing that really interests me.
This sounds like a classic Ubisoft move to me. I mean, Ubisoft loves.
That's what everybody's saying.
Yeah.
I'm getting this also. I believe I'm getting this from IGN. It's worth noting that Star Wars Outlaws is a single-player only game, which has caused some question the need for a season pass at all. By using the word season, Ubisoft suggests that there will be more than one. It's also worth pointing out that the base game costs $70 on console, which means Ubisoft values the season pass and early access at $40, and the cosmetics and digital art book at $20. Ubisoft has yet to detail the 2 post-launch DLCs included in the season pass. So good.
I want to say this is disturbing to me because IGN doesn't think there's more than one season. You've got autumn and fall and no, I'm kidding, autumn and winter and summer and spring. Anyway, sorry, bad joke. But no, this is stupid. The game should be just $50 if you think it's all this DLC stuff is 20.
I'm guessing what they mean by season is that there's going to be 2 DLC like campaigns that they're making for it. They're going to be, I'm not saying extensive, but they're probably going to be like they have their own storyline and everything, cutscenes and all that. So I guess that's what they mean. But yeah, the pricing is ridiculous. But first things first. Like I love Star Wars. I'm excited about this game. I love that they're delving into the underworld of Star Wars with the smugglers and everything instead of doing typical Empire, Jedi, all that stuff.
Yes.
But on the other hand, though, it's first of all, it's not on Steam. It's coming. That's one of my big pet peeves with PC gaming is putting everything on either on the Epic Game Store or Ubisoft's own platform. And this one's not on either one. It's only on Ubisoft's own platform. I'm not supporting that. So if I get this game, it would be on PS5, not PC.
Right.
Or I'll wait for it
to
come to Steam, and then it'll be or a sale. And that's another thing I'm going to say is I'm not getting this game day one for multiple reasons. First of all, I don't know how good this game is going to be because it's Ubisoft. So even though this game looks quality to me, I still don't. Most Ubisoft games are usually in the 7 out of 10 range,
Yeah.
less than that, a little less than that, or a little higher than that. It's always in that like 6 to 8, 6 to maybe 8 range. Where it's like it's still good, but it's not great. And another thing is, you all you have to do is wait 2 months or a month or even 2 weeks, and Ubisoft games always go on sale, like always.
Yes.
Like they
Yep.
never wait. Like they just it comes out $70 and then wait 2 weeks and it's $50. 2 weeks later,
And
you know.
I would probably get this game or at least consider it much more at 50. I've been coy about this in the past. I don't like Ubisoft as a company. I don't like a lot of what they do in the open world genre, and more importantly, I don't care for what they do behind closed doors either. A lot of their toxic workspace stuff has just left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not really into Ubisoft as a company. That said, I mean, my enthusiasm for Star Wars is probably at an all-time low. I do love Andor, and I've watched a couple of series since then. And I grew up loving Star Wars. I've watched all the main movies and a lot of the side stuff, and I'm a big fan. But my enthusiasm for Star Wars is pretty low compared to what it used to be, especially as a kid. So when you combine those two things and the $70 price tag and Ubisoft's like reputation for, like you said, Seb, not always delivering high quality games, this is a definitely wait and see for me. We'll talk about more about the $70 price tag in a bit, but it's a definite wait and see. I like look. Nobody could like this premise more than I do, right? I literally ran a Star Wars D&D 5e campaign based on the premise that it was between episode 4 and episode 5, right between those two, when the Empire is arguably at its most careless, oblivious, right? Because they're dealing with the rebellion. The Death Star has just been blown up, so they have the least amount of power they've ever had, and that's a perfect amount of time. That's a perfect time for bounty hunters and mercenaries and heists and everything like that. So I literally did a short-lived campaign based on that idea. So no one could be more with the idea of this game than me, probably. But even then, I'm like, it's Ubisoft. I just don't know.
Yeah, so Game Informer also played a bit of this game, and they kind of delved deep into it a bit from what they played. So we got a couple of tidbits. The first one was that it apparently takes place between Episode 5 and Episode 6. So it takes place between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which
That's what I meant. 5 and 6.
Which we never really get that in Star Wars. Like so,
Yes.
we always get the era between 3 and 4 with the like Bad Batch is about like the Clone Wars, how their clones are faded out, and how like Kamino got blasted by the Empire, and that how Palpatine got stormtroopers instead of clone troopers and all that stuff. And then you got like Rebels, which showed us like how the rebellion started and all that stuff, and the Inquisitors, and that's the introduction to the Inquisitors. We never got like after Empire Strikes Back where Luke gets his hand cut off, and the rebellion's is at its low point in the battle. But this doesn't really focus on that. This is more about the underground, the underworld section, because obviously Jabba the Hutt appears in the trailer and he dies in Return of the Jedi. Spoiler. And I guess that people are piecing it together.
Damn, I can't believe Seb just spoiled that.
Yeah, Darth Vader is Luke's father. Palpatine is the evil. He was the one behind the scenes the whole time.
Oh my god!
Yeah. All right. So Star Wars Outlaws featured. I'm going off the article. Features several planets and moons for players to explore, including iconic and well-known locales like Tatooine, Kijimi. I don't know that one, and Ikiva. But my hands-on demo takes place entirely on Tashara, a new moon created by Massive Entertainment, the people who made it, in collaboration with Lucasfilm Games. And then it says Marogana is a dense, multi-leveled, but it was intentionally designed. Okay, so there's like a city section that's very like it looks nice, and it's a dense, multi-leveled, but it was intentionally designed not to be like a sprawling city like in other open world games. So if you open up the map, the location that we built from Maragana is quite compact. So even though it's like it looks expansive, it's not like you have to explore the entire city. It's like it's probably disguised. It's probably more linear, but it's disguised to be open world. So it's probably more open area. I guess what they're
I
trying to
would
say.
I would honestly liken this. I mean, I love when open worlds do this. This is probably my favorite thing when the world itself isn't massive, but there's a lot to do, right? Like
Yeah.
Outer Worlds kind of does this, Disco Elysium kind of does this. Like the world is so dense and compact, and there's so many things to do in each building
Yeah.
that the world doesn't have to be extremely huge.
Right. Right. I agree. I prefer open area games in comparison to open world.
Right.
There's some open world games that I love, of course, like Fallout and stuff, but I do generally like where it's like open area. Like the map is just big enough where it feels like it's open world, but it really isn't. It doesn't feel overwhelming where it's like I have no idea where I'm going, or I feel overwhelmed by all these icons on the map or something like that. So I hope that's what they're going for with this one, which is what it seems like. Cause I'm guessing they're going for more of a Uncharted vibe, Uncharted 4 vibe, not so much the other Uncharted games. All right, so the main character is Kay Vess. So she's like a common pickpocket thief. She's just a basic regular thief, and then she gets like in over her head, and she gets caught up in all the huge factions of the underworld, including the Pike Syndicate, who keeps popping up now in Star Wars canon in like every show, like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, things like that. So there's different factions in this game apparently. There's a reputation system that you get a reputation system with different factions of the different syndicates, and it affects like where you can go and what places you can get into by your reputation. So if you have good reputation with a certain faction, you can explore a certain area. Let's see. So there's 4 syndicates, each with its own leader. Jabba the Hutt is leader of the Hutt cartel. And then you got Lady. I don't know how to say her name. Kira. She was the character in Solo by Emilia Clarke.
Right, and Amelia is not actually voicing her, by the way.
No, and so that's her first appearance in Solo movie. Then you got Queen Ashiga of the Ashiga clan, which is a new syndicate created for outlaws, and then you got Gorak, which is the leader of the Pike Syndicate, which we talked about. Those are like the snake people. And the reputation system represents your standing with these 4 syndicates, ranging from terrible to excellent for each individual group. Going off the article, Star Wars Outlaw strives to provide player agency, but in early portions of a hideout infiltration, you'll need to be stealthy. As such, Kay's blaster is off limits until she can get deeper into the territory. However, you can perform stealthy takedowns to clear the path to her destination. This is where Nyx comes in handy, as you can guide him from the shadows to either distract or attack guards. In this instance, I go the slightly louder route of having Nyx run up the guard's leg and latch into his head. This way may be a bit louder, but it also means I can have Kay sprint up and take the guard out without being detected. So basically, there's stealth in this game. Of course, like it plays like an Uncharted game. You can tackle it different ways. You can be really aggressive and shoot up the place, or you might have to be stealth and treat it like it's a typical stealth game, like a Hitman or something.
Right.
Or I might be blanking on the name of the other one.
Plague Tale?
No. Yeah, I guess Plague Tale counts too. I was thinking of Splinter Cell.
Splinter Cell, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, I forget that one. They're also owned by Ubisoft, and they hate that IP.
They sure do.
So, for everything I'm gathering, sounds really cool on the surface.
Yeah.
Like this is the kind of game I really want. I was so upset when they canceled Star Wars 1313 because I wanted a game that focused on like the bounty hunter, smuggler side of Star Wars rather than just keep doing Jedi all stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love Jedi stuff and I love Jedi Survivor and Jedi Outcast and Academy and every Jedi game you can think of. But it's time to focus on the gunners rather than like lightsabers and force powers.
Yeah, I mean, look how popular Andor has been, right? I mean, it's one of the best. I know it's not just because of that, right? But it's one of the best Star Wars properties in recent time, possibly of all time, depending on how high you rank it. And it's all about scum and villainy, right? All about heists and thievery and just I mean that's why people loved Rogue One. I know it wasn't like universally acclaimed or anything, but I certainly enjoyed Rogue One because of those elements.
Right.
And Andor takes the best of that.
I mean, you can only do Jedi versus Sith so much. You can only do Empire versus Rebels so much.
I mean, that's why they're starting to go to is it the Old Republic or the what is it?
The New
What,
Republic.
the new is it the New Republic?
No,
I can't remember. It's the new Star Wars show that's coming out, The Acolyte. The Acolyte. But yeah, I mean that's why they're doing that, right? Because you can only run that back so many flipping times.
Was it the High Republic or something?
A High Republic. You're right. I always get it because I always think of KOTOR. Whenever somebody talks about Republic, I'm like, oh, you must be talking about KOTOR.
Oh yeah,
Old Republic.
We're gonna get so much stuff from I already have so many books and comic books.
Yeah.
So it's only a matter of time to get more shows and movies now. This whole new era of Star Wars. It's actually.
I'll just be happy because there won't be a fucking Skywalker in sight.
Yeah, my only thing is I guess I am getting this because we're getting a Rey movie or show or whatever it was, but I want to see the future. Like I want them to move forward. I want to see like the Republic rebuild itself from the what happened in the sequel trilogy.
Right.
But I like both, so I'm glad we're getting both. I mean, Star Wars is doing okay right now. I think it's not great. I have some issues, but I'm mostly happy. I feel like. But back to the game, it's what I want. It seems like it's what I want, but I don't trust Ubisoft fully. They've never made a game that like blew me away and that I can think of in a long time. So
yeah, I mean, even the latest Assassin's Creed game that not promised, but kind of implied it was going back to basics. I mean, even that,
it was okay.
Which a lot of people wanted, was 7s, 8s, right?
Yeah, it was all right.
Best, I think.
Yeah,
it was all right.
I don't even think it was 8s. I think it was like 7s ish. This is the perfect 7 out of like. I can't like that's the 7 out of 10 game. Like it's good, but it's like just enough not to be great but not bad enough to be bad.
To be clear, there's nothing wrong with being a 7 out of 10.
No.
I'm not like we're not starting on like some fucking weird anti-IGN rant, but like it's fine being a 7 out of 10. But you can't charge people $70 again and again and again for just a good experience. Like video games have come so far that they have outgrown the need to just have these really pricey. Not that there ever was a need to have these really pricey games come over and over and over. Anyway, I'm bleeding into our next topic, but yeah, it is that price point is frustrating. At $50, I would definitely consider it, but 70 is a bit steep to me.
All right, so let's transition to that topic is now.
Sure.
So recently, an interview, the former. Oh, actually, no. Let me.
Oh yeah, we have to Fallout first. Sorry, that wasn't our next. That was the next topic.
It's okay. So the Saber Interactive CEO Matthew Karch doesn't think it's a sustainable model for games to be $70, and he believes it will go the way of the dodo. That's the quote he used. When speaking to IGN recently, he mentioned how he believes game companies could eventually find a way to lower development costs. Quote, I think that as games become more expensive to make, the $70 title is going to go the way of the dodo bird. I do. I just don't think it's sustainable. That's the full quote. I think the market is going to shift to development, which is not necessarily lower quality, but there's going to be an emphasis on trying to find ways to reduce costs. Now, that makes sense to me because as we talked about in this podcast, actually, that game budgets has gone way overblown. Like, it's so bloated now. And this actually ties into another topic I wanted to include in this episode, which is the EA considering the Dead Space remake to be a failure because it only sold 2 million copies, even though that's...
Wait, what? I didn't even hear about that. I know I heard about them closing down rumors that they canceled the Dead Space 2, but I didn't hear anything about this.
Yeah, maybe I'm adding a layer to it where like the fact that it seems like there was a lot of smoke that like they were making a Dead Space 2 remake and then they decided because the first game didn't sell as well that they're canceling their plans because it even though it sold as much as the original, I think, off the top of my head. But point is, a lot of these companies have unrealistic expectations. They put huge budget into these games. And if the game doesn't sell like 20 million copies, it's a failure. Let's blow it up, not do it again. And I think it's an issue for like Sony, for example, right? We've talked about this. That Sony is making other games like $300 million, $400 million, $500 million, and the game has to be a huge seller for them to make a great profit. And what happens is it's creating this like problem where they don't have any games for years or months, or there's nothing in between the big releases. Like Sony Sony doesn't have a big game like this year so far that we know of that's first party. all the big games this year have been second party and third party deals, right? Final Fantasy VII
Yeah.
Remake is Square Enix. Stellar Blade is second party as well, right? And Rise of
Yes.
the Ronin is second party. And so Sony doesn't have any first party games right now because they're struggling. They're having their issues, and the other companies too. They're like everything has to be big budget, AAA, beautiful graphics, the lighting. We had to have ray tracing everywhere. And I also, as I said this before as well, I blame the gamers for this as well because they're always the ones who are like they're always talking about graphics and this game looks amazing or doesn't look good. Like Rise of the Ronin sucks because it looks like a PS3 game and I don't want to play that now. Like even if the gameplay was amazing,
Right.
which I haven't played it so I couldn't tell you. But like gameplay can be great, right? Like if like Mario is not the greatest looking game ever, but people love Mario because the gameplay is so much fun
Right.
or any game really and gamers like always obsessed with like you see it on Twitter, like even though Twitter is very small section of gamers, it's always like they take a screenshot like ugly it is, like look at the people are walking through the wall or they're clipping or
They did that.
the
They did that with
bushes.
Spider-Man 2. That
Yeah.
shit really fucking aggravated me because in some clips, especially, gamers were literally trying to get glitches, and then when they actually got the glitches or bugs or whatever, they're like, "Oh my god, look, they're selling $70 for a game that doesn't even work." I played that game front to back, pretty much 100% at everything. You know, I didn't platinum it or whatever, but I spent like 30-ish hours and it did pretty much everything you could do. I almost got no bugs or glitches or any sizable issues anywhere. People just want to cause problems when there are none. And it's like I get criticizing the $70 price tag. I got criticizing the $60 price tag. Let's be real. But it's like I do think in these situations where you have a Spider-Man 2, where you have a God of War, where you have a Last of Us Part 3, allegedly, right? That for me, that is worth it because those are such unforgettable single player experiences. I will never regret spending $70 on God of War Ragnarok or Spider-Man 2 or The Last of Us Part 2 or whatever it was back then, 60 or 70, whatever it was. I will never regret that because I had unforgettable experiences that will stay with me. And I enjoyed those games so much. All three of them, I think, of the games I just mentioned are, as we talked about last week, in my top 10 games of all time. But even if they weren't, like, they're still some of my favorite games. Yeah, I mean, there are some situations where I think it's okay to list something as $70, but I also think it's okay to scale things down and not have things. Not everything needs to be AAA. Not everything needs to be big budget, explosions everywhere, Michael Bay. Like it's okay to just have stuff where it doesn't have to be like there's room between a total indie game like we were talking about earlier with Open Roads and Children of the Sun and like a AAA game like The Last of Us Part 2 or whatever, right? You can have an in between like AA games, I guess they call them. Like what's that one called that came out? The Revenant one, the one that had the two protagonists and their
Banishers.
Banishers, yeah, Ghost of New Eden. And I still want to play that. I haven't. I'm waiting for a sale on it, but yeah, it's a frustrating experience for sure.
Yeah, and I also blame gamers in the fact that like they don't support indie games enough. Like people complain like, "Oh, every game's too much the same, plays the same, and then you have like all these unique indie games, right? Like there's so many indie games, like there's thousands of games, right? And we just mentioned two games today, right? They play totally different from each other. There's a game for everybody. Every week there's new games come out and they're unique and people don't support it properly. It's like people that say there's no games or they're bored and gaming sucks, they don't play anything different. It's always got to be AAA. So I blame gamers too. They don't properly support these games. Like for Sony, for example, like Sony looks at their money and they're like, they're not buying these smaller games. So let's not even waste our time making them. Let's just focus on the big games. And that's the wrong mindset, I think. I think Santa Monica and Naughty Dog and Insomniac should make the big games, and I think you should have the other studios make smaller games. Like I think Media Molecule and Ben Studio and all of them should be making AA indies. Like not everybody should be making the big AAA game and have a 5-year interval between games. But like then you have other studios where it's like they're only making one game because it's like they're a smaller studio, and they're putting all this money and budget like into like this this giant game, and we don't really need that. Like, this has been an issue for a long time now, but now the budget's really getting overly bloated. Where it's like we've been saying this for years, since like the 360 era, where they're like open world game, everything's open world, and the open worlds are empty, right? Like they make an open world game just for the sake because it's a popular trend. So let's make everything open world, and it gets very annoying, right? Like a game, they feel like the game has to be 50 hours for it to be worth the price. Like people say like, I'm not spending $60 on a 12-hour game. That's ridiculous. The game needs to be 40, 50 hours to be worthy of my money. That's how people think, and that's how studios think. And then also on top of everything else, it doesn't help that like the CEOs are making way more money and getting bonuses.
And then cutting employees off.
Yeah, so
firing them.
The budget's out of control in the game industry. I think it's become very Hollywoodized. And they treat like games like it's cinematic. Everything has to be giant and bloated and action packed.
Yeah.
And it's not the way it should be. I'm all for those games. I love those games too. But the studios all have to cut. These studios have to slow down, like step back, and be like, these games' budget's getting out of control, and we need to start scaling down. And I agree with the CEO of Saber Interactive. I do think this is where this is going to happen, because I think a lot of these studios are realizing. I think the layoffs are a part of that. They're like, we're spending too much money on these things. Like, we need to scale down. Unfortunately, that led to people losing their jobs, but that is I think that's where we're heading. There is a space for every layer of games. Like people like EA and Ubisoft and Sony and Microsoft all have like pretty much unlimited funds, right? So they can focus on big games. But like other studios, they can do AA, and it forces people to be more creative. So it's an issue in the industry right now. So
for sure.
But I do think hopefully it's trending in a positive way, because I think these companies are realizing it's too much money to support these things.
Yeah.
So I agree with him, but we'll see. All right. So before we move on, we have to do our ad break. So Dory, take it away.
This episode is sponsored by everyone's favorite feral goth girl, Gogo, the game mistress. Gogo is a professional GM and geek event organizer. She's an award-winning cosplayer, published author, voice actor, and general menace to civil society. Gogo has professional experience running D&D, Pathfinder, World of Darkness, Fate, Lancer, Thirsty Sword Lesbians, Warhammer 40k RPGs, and over 30 other systems for cons, companies, and private tables. If you pay her enough, she'll even run Fatal. You can hire her as the game mistress for your online tabletop group over at startplaying.games/gamemistress. That's startplaying.games/gamemistress. The link is in the description, along with her link tree. Mention our show to GoGo to get $5 off your first 5 sessions.
All right, so another news. We got the whole season of Fallout on Amazon Prime Video, and it's been a huge success. It's gotten universal acclaim. People are praising the hell out of it. It's taking the world by storm. People are playing Fallout games, and like Steam's seeing huge records of not records, but people are like huge upticks of people playing Fallout. People are rebuying them on Xbox and PlayStation. Fallout is like it's already a popular series, but it's like it's getting kind of rejuvenated by this show, and you're even getting all the games on sale like right now. Like there's sales everywhere on every website, Steam, Fallout, and they're very cheap. Like Fallout 1 and 2 are like $3, I think, and New Vegas for the whole collection is $5. Fallout 4, I think, is like $10 on sites for the whole collection. When I say collection, I mean like the DLC, like all the Game of the Year edition. And I watched the show. I binged it on Thursday. It came out on Thursday, and I watched the whole thing in one night. And it was incredible. It was the greatest video game adaptation of all time.
You heard it. Put that on the back. Put on the back of the cover of the DVD release or Blu-ray release.
But with my name, Gaming Lounge podcast as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it absolutely is. I've never seen a show be this accurate to a adaptation or this accurate to a video game ever or a movie. It gets every little detail pretty much perfect. Like every sound effect in Fallout is in it. Every little, but the Pit Boy, the noise of every technology, the way the monsters sound, the locations. It's like everything is so spot on. Like I've never seen it someone be this loyal, this like close to the game. Like I usually you always get the director to be like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan," but I changed practically everything in the show, everything in the game because like Resident Evil, for example, right? Like we have not gotten a good Resident Evil adaptation yet because they keep being like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan, but let me change everything about it that makes it good. Let me add a dance scene in the middle of the show," right? Did you watch
Now, wait a second.
Did you watch the Netflix
man.
one?
No, I'm kidding.
Did
Wait, did one of them do a dance?
Yes.
Which one was that?
The Netflix one. The lady does like a whole dance thing, and it's like so out of place. And the really quick tangent. First of all, most of the show is focused on two girls, and it's like a teen drama, like suburbs, and Wesker is like has clones, and it's so stupid. It's like a CW show. It's not Resident Evil at all. Anyway, Fallout doesn't do that. Fallout is like this game. This show is practically canon to the games. It's like it's in the world, and here you go. So first things first, you follow as multiple characters. First you follow Lucy, who's a vault dweller. Obviously, if you played a Fallout game before, every main character is a vault dweller. It's always about you start off in a vault where like people were hiding out when the nuclear bombs went off, and the vault dwellers like live in this their own little private utopia, and outside world is a mess. It's like Mad Max. Like everybody's out to kill each other. It's violent. And then you have this little vault where everybody's safe, but as always though, right? Something violent happens or something bad happens in the vault, and the main character has to venture out into the world, and that's what Lucy's character is. She's naive and she's not. For the first thing that happens is she's getting married. She was getting married. They have like pre-planned marriages, and she was getting married off to another person from another vault. And it turns out the people that are in the other vault is like secretly raiders, and the raiders just like murder everybody in the vault practically. For the most, they murder most of the people in the vault, and that and her dad gets kidnapped by a leader of a faction, and the whole story is about Lucy going out into the real world, being naive because she grew up in a vault, to go find her dad, and that's when she runs into all different types of Fallout, typical Fallout stuff. And on the other hand, we also follow the Ghoul, or Cooper Howard, which is if you don't know what a ghoul is a person that got radiation from the blast, and their skin melted and they turn into like zombie like beings, and they're immortal, but eventually a lot of them turn rabid and they become like zombie like things. So people are racist against the ghouls because people always view them as like zombies. So ghouls always have a bad reputation. People see a ghoul, they always like make fun of them or attack them, or like they're always very, very discriminatory against them. This ghoul, he like in his previous life he was an actor, Hollywood actor, and but now 200 years he's alive for 200 years because, like I said, ghouls are practically immortal. He takes medicine so he doesn't turn rabid, because eventually all ghouls, I think, turn rabid at some point because their brains kind of rot. Even though they're immortal, the brains don't rot. And he takes medicine to keep going, and he's looking for his wife and daughter, which I won't say what happened, but I'm guessing that's how they're going to continue the story in the next few seasons. And he's like a bounty hunter. He's a really cool character, I think. He's like he takes on a whole town by himself. He's kind of like the wandering cowboy character, and his performance is so fun. He's such a great character. And then you also have Maximus, who's the squire of the Brotherhood of Steel. Brotherhood of Steel being like the armored guys, the big iconic steel armor. they're kind of like a mix between like the Catholic Church and knights, and they're religious and they're not. It's kind of like I don't know how to explain it, but they're kind of like knights, right? Because they call each other squires and knights and sir, and so like they're like a military, but they're like knights, and they go help. They go search around for relics around the wasteland, and they help people if needed as well. But Maximus is kind of like naive as well. He doesn't know about like the comforts of life. All he knows is like growing up in the military and like the misery of life. So him and Lucy, that's why him and Lucy are a great dynamic, because they're both like naive characters that come from different worlds. So there's a lot of funny moments, because this show has a lot of funny moments as well. Because Fallout is serious, but there's a lot of humor in Fallout. Like it's a great balance between very serious stuff like people die and murder and thievery and nukes, but you also have a lot of like subtle humor. Everybody's witty and has funny lines. There's like just goofy like, way people die is funny. It's like dark humor. Fallout is the definition of dark humor. What else? So this show takes place, after the bombs go off. So it's like the wasteland. The America in this timeline, it's like a retro future, like a retro. It's in the future, but it's like retro. If we were still like based on the 50s, that's how Fallout is. And America is run by like the Enclave, which is like a very fascist organization. Like basically, America gets taken over by oligarchy, and they get in a war with China, and China and the U.S. just nuke each other and destroys the whole world, and basically the whole world becomes an apocalyptic wasteland.
Luckily, nothing is going on globally right now that would possibly threaten nuclear weapons to be launched. So we're all safe here.
Oh, what's the line in Avatar? What's it?
And then the Fire Nation attacked?
No.
Is that one?
The one with the...
There's no war. There is no war.
Yeah.
Bossing say.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. So all the people that are taking refuge that can afford it, take refuge in the vaults. So that's where the vaults are. This vaults scattered all across the United States, and it's run by the Vault Tech Company, which is the biggest corporation, but they're also scumbags who don't care about like human life, and they have their own alternative motives, which you'll see in the show if you watch it. So it jumps around timelines in terms of like it jumps around between like the 200 years before the war goes off, and it jumps back to the wasteland. So it has multiple characters. It also has Lucy's brother, who's trying to solve a mystery with the vaults and what happened to the people, and it does a great job interwoven everybody's storyline, and everybody is interconnected in a way. And that's why the show is so great, because the writing in the show is amazing. Like the story is so tight and well written, and the characters are all likable, and the dialogue's great, and everything's about this great. The show is amazing, this show has amazing cinematography. The visuals are incredible. It has a lot of great locations. It takes place in California. You get a lot of desert shots and stuff like that. It's really good. I think it's the greatest adaptation of all time. I would have said Last of Us was before this show, but I think this show does certain things better that The Last of Us doesn't do. But I don't want to get a comparison of like between Fallout and Last of Us. I just think Fallout does just a couple things better, a few things better that The Last of Us missed the mark on for me. But I love that show too. Yeah, I really, really recommend it. This is masterclass of adaptation. Like this is like pure love for the franchise. Absolutely pure love. And Dory, I know you don't have Amazon, but
yeah, that's why I've been so quiet.
Would you check it out?
I don't have Amazon, so
would you check it out if you didn't have it? If you did have Amazon,
I actually would, because this looks cool. So I would check it out. I haven't. Everybody, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath before what I'm about to say. I have not played any of the Fallout games. I have Fallout New Vegas on Game Pass. I plan to play that at some point, because I believe if you don't, the transgender committee will come after me for not having played that yet. It's a meme that a lot of trans girls have played Fallout, especially Fallout New Vegas. Anyway, so I do plan on playing Fallout, at least Fallout New Vegas at some point. Especially because a lot of those same people made Outer Worlds, and I love Outer Worlds. But yeah, so I would check this out. It's been gotten really good reviews. But I don't have it's what Amazon's one of the few subscriptions I don't have. I hate Amazon as a company, so giving them any money just doesn't sit right with me personally. But yeah, and I didn't know this was going to be such a hit, so I wasn't really like necessarily looking forward to it. But I'm glad to hear it's doing well. I know Leona Rupert, who hopefully pronouncing that right. She who used to be with Bungie, helped work on Fallout with a lot of people. I know she's super passionate about Mass Effect and Fallout, and so she's really great. I follow her on Twitter, so I know she's involved with some of the production stuff. I don't know exactly what her role is, but that was another good sign for me. If this was going to be a good show, if they're hiring people like Liana. So yeah, I think it's awesome. This is going to be great, or this is a great video game adaptation. We're getting more and more of them. It feels less and less like. Honestly, it feels like what has replaced a good video game adaptation as something that's unrealistic is a good live action anime adaptation. Which even then, One Piece was still pretty good, right? I know Yu Yu Hakusho was a mixed bag, but yeah, I don't know. It seems like it's at least becoming more and more likely you get those good video game adaptations at least.
Yes, it. Yeah, I've realized a lot of these studios are realizing that pissing off the fans is not a good way to make money and have a good show. That's because that's your core base that you want, but you also want to appeal to new fans, which I think this show is very accessible as well. Because you don't need to know Fallout to like the show. If you just like post-apocalyptic show and funny humor and great action and all that, you'll be into the show. So the show is very accessible for everyone. The lore is very easy to understand. Everybody knows about nuclear bombs. It's just every human being is taught this at some point. So it's a very good show. So totally recommend it. Go check it out on Amazon Prime Video. All right, so our last topic of the night is the Triple I Initiative Showcase, which I didn't really know about. I didn't know about this.
Yeah, I pointed this out to you as I was on IGN. I saw a whole bunch of videos got uploaded, and a lot of them were trailers and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, what's that?" And I'm like, "Well, this might be worth talking about."
Yeah, I saw the trailers to games. I'm like, where are these coming from? I just assumed that
yes,
studios just released trailers on Twitter or whatever. But it was actually from a showcase. Yes. So Dory, I've been talking enough, so I'll let you start.
Yeah. Thank you. So it's called Triple I first off because AAA, right? It's a little bit of a play on that.
Yeah.
I want to say that this is one of my favorite showcases of all time, just because it's all killer, no filler. Even if you don't like somehow all of the 30 plus games that you got in this 45-minute showcase, which is crazy. It's really great to. Excuse me. It's really great to see all of this indie talent together, and it's really just they show a game, they say, "Hey, this is what you're watching." Back to the games, and there's no, I think the most that they do is they do like a hype check to see if you're still hyped, and that lasts all. But there's no host, there's no nothing, there's no guff, no filler. It's just killer. So yeah, a lot of games were shown off. We have plenty to talk about here. And the Polygon and also a couple of other outlets covered it. I have a couple out. I think one from GameSpot. But I'll just go over my highlights unless we want to go over the whole. I don't think we should go over the whole show because that's a lot. But no, I'll go over my highlights.
I only have a few games. I don't have I don't want.
So one of the games I really want to highlight is Kill Knight. If that sounds really edgelord to you, like everything's in black and red, congratulations, because it is. It looks like a really cool action game, it looks like a survival game. You're basically underneath hell, as if this couldn't. It's like so it's an isometric action game, right? It's coming to PS5, which is awesome. Also Steam. It's arcade inspired, and it's an action shooter. So yeah, it has the most like badass name of all time, Kill Knight. Its art style is beautiful. It's very bloody, very fast paced, violent. I would call it kind of like, I don't know, like Neo, like cyberpunky with all the like flashing lights and stuff. But yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know quite, like, I've never really seen a lot of games like it,
Yeah.
but
It reminds
it's very
me.
cool, and it's
It,
oh yeah, go ahead.
it reminds me of Hades, the gameplay.
Yes, it does. There was also another game called Death Must Die, and that really
Yeah.
looked like Hades, like to an alarming copyright level. But this doesn't look quite as much, just
Plays
because
like
of the
it.
aesthetic.
Doesn't look like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it gameplay wise, but aesthetic, it looks very different.
Yeah. It looks unique.
So it's described on Steam as an ultra responsive, arcade inspired isometric action shooter. If that's not enough of a mouthful for you, condemned to an eternal sufferance. Here we go. Deep within the voids of an eldritch arena, you must wield an arsenal of devastating weaponry to obliterate swarms of otherworldly horrors and master the demon within. I mean, that just sounds fucking awesome. I don't know what else to tell you. If you're not sold by by the main premise of it, then I don't know what to tell you. I'll go over the other highlights for me as well. Shadow of a Doubt is a sandbox detective game, very different from the last game I just talked about. I don't really remember a ton about it. 1 second, let me actually get it up so I can get the video up. Here we go. First person detective stealth video game. It is it was already released in early access, so I didn't know that. That's cool. It's got very good reviews on Steam, which is nice. But yeah, it's described as an immersive sandbox detective stealth game set in a fully simulated sci-fi noir city of crime and corruption. You think like a PI and take on jobs to earn cash on your path to catching a serial killer. And if you don't catch them, they will kill again. So this is, very a little Hitman inspired, it seems, in terms of how if you don't interact with the environment will eventually interact with you or interact with itself. Where certain events are timed out, very immersive in that way. It's only in early access, but it seems really good. Very positive reviews so far. And the style there's kind of some old timey computer play. People are looking at newspapers and stuff. Of course, you've got the noir feel to it. But yeah, I wanted to highlight that game as well. Third game, I just want to really quick talk about this. What the Car was definitely a game that jumped out to me. I mean, literally jumped out to me. This looks like so fun. This is what video games are all about. Just a really ridiculous game where you are a car, completely normal car, by the way, and just jump around a map trying to get to the end with a bunch of power-ups and kooky like atmosphere. It looks really fun. I don't know if it's for me because I've talked before on this podcast and others about my hesitation with platformers as an adult. But basically, you're a car with legs, and you're going to race through hundreds of unique levels by jumping, flying with jetpacks, climbing tall buildings, and delivering packages. Pretty much doing whatever you need to do in each given level. So I just love this because of the art style. I love this because of the trailer. I prefer trailers with voiceover than trailers that. I know it's nice to let game trailers. This is like a tangent, but I know it's nice to let game trailers just do their own thing and not necessarily have somebody explain it to all of you. But I like sometimes, especially with games that are really weird like this, you can just have a little bit more semblance of understanding. So that is nice. Last one I want to talk about, and Seb is also interested in this one, is this one's just called Mouse. This has, if y'all didn't know, basically the original design of Mickey Mouse is now copyright free. Anybody can make that design anytime they want. Disney can't do anything. And so this, instead of doing a horror movie, which apparently is all the rage right now, what with Winnie the Pooh and whatnot, I think somebody was making a Mickey Mouse horror movie too. Anyway, so it's basically using that same old-fashioned Steamboat Willie Steamboat Willie aesthetic and having a bunch of legally distinct Mickey Mouses with guns. And I mean, I don't, if you're not into old-timey aesthetic 1920s, then this probably isn't the game for you. But it looks really cool. It looks like it plays really cool.
Yeah, it's like Cuphead with guns.
So yeah, so it's basically Mouse. It's just Mickey Mouse with guns for some reason.
Right. Is that all your games?
Yeah, and Mouse is basically, if I haven't, I'll just read from the Steam description. It's a cartoony FPS shooter, lots of action. I don't know how much there is story or not story in it, but it looks really cool. And I'm interested to see how it does, and would definitely consider picking it up.
Right. So you hit on pretty much all my games as well. The only thing I want to shout out as well, a couple other games is Slay the Spire 2, which is very exciting for a lot of people. It's a
Yes.
roguelike card game. People are gonna put thousands of hours in that game, so that was really exciting. I believe it's on sale right now as well, the first one, and so I never played. I played it a little bit, I think, but I've never really delved deep into it. And another thing that jumped out at me was Vampire Survivors getting Contra DLC.
Contra
It's
DLC.
kind of
That's
weird. It's a
wild.
weird mashup. And then I thought it was cool to have Power Worlds getting an arena. If it already didn't feel like Pokemon, now it definitely does, right?
Yeah.
And finally, the Prince of Persia is basically we're getting a roguelike Prince of Persia action adventure game from the people that made Dead Cells, the Dead
I
Cells team.
love that art style. Art style was so clean.
Yeah, and I'm happy to see Prince of Persia is thriving in different genres of games. We just got the one recently as a Metroidvania, and now we're getting this one as a roguelike action platformer. So I'm happy to see Prince of Persia doing well. I'm curious if we ever get a 3D one, but this game looks really good. Overall, like the showcase was good. There's a lot of cool games that I saw. It was just that I only got so much time to play games. It's like there's so many games. So I have to pick and choose which ones I like. But Dory already hit on all the ones that really stood out to me. The main ones were Kill Knight and Mouse. Like those two were the ones that really the ones I'm definitely probably gonna play. No, definitely gonna play. And yeah, what the car looks definitely looks interesting to me. I know they made like What the Golf, and I know people are like that one. But this is their third What the game, I think, from that developer. And yeah, it looks pretty
Okay,
fun.
cool.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know what else to say really. Uh, it was a good showcase for indies, and go support your indie devs, please. Go support these games. I mean, the showcase as it showed you has tons of games. So like, there's a lot of indie games to support. So there's all these unique, different style of genres. Again, the biggest takeaway I got out of that was that there was tons of indie games, all different genres. And the other thing I got out of it was that roguelike is here to stay because that's a trend now because everybody's doing roguelike right now. Like I feel like every
Yeah, for
big
sure.
indie game is roguelike, or even now it's trickling it into AAA now. Like you got the Valhalla DLC with Ragnarok, right? So
Hmm.
that's what I got out of this was that. So that is all I have to say. So that concludes our show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me, Dory.
Of course.
And we'll be back next week for episode 12. We'll see what happens to that one. I don't know what I'm going to be playing. I'm kind of just jumping around at this point. What game I'm playing? I'm at the end of Sekiro, so maybe I'll spotlight that next week. I never played Sekiro, so my first playthrough, and I can see why this won Game of the Year in multiple awards in 2019. Because yeah, it's probably the best From Software game. Of course, I still like Elden Ring better, but I'll talk about that. But yeah, Dory, we
I'll
playing something.
probably.
Go ahead.
I think my next game is going to be me solving the mystery of who killed Sonic the Hedgehog. So I'm very excited to figure
Awesome.
out that mystery.
Sega.
Maybe I'll highlight that.
Spoiler:
Maybe I'll
it
highlight
was
that for next
Sega.
week. No.